Here's an update I've been dreading doing. Bodywork update. First order of business is a big thank you. There's been a bunch of new subscribers that showed up, and to all the originals, thank you every one of you. I appreciate it. This is going to be a big bodywork update. The oil cooler is installed in the side vent, which is right in front of the rear wheel, on the driver's side. And this vent is pathetically small as it comes from the factory. Basically, it only exposes about 1/3 to 1/4 of the total oil cooler. So, unfortunately, I decided to be ambitious and actually try to make that opening bigger. It's not that much work, to be honest. There's a couple guys on the forum who've already done the same thing and they had really good success. So the first things that you saw me do was to make slits in the middle of the openings, and now it's in place and I'm measuring up the amount of extension or opening that I need to add and throwing in some paint sticks to prop it open. The next step is to build some molds, which I used cardboard. I just omitted one really important thing. If you cover the cardboard with duct tape, it'll prevent the fiberglass and resin from sticking to it, which makes popping it off a whole lot easier. So, do that. Seriously. Next is rough trimming the fiberglass cloth and fiberglass mat to go over the openings that I just made. So here's where I screwed up the second time. My fiberglass resins had been sitting in the garage over the winter, so they got pretty cold, and as it turned out, the catalyst seems to have separated a little bit in the hardener. So my first mix went into a really thermally unstable reaction and got really hot. It was smoking, and it set up really fast. So to compensate for that, the second time, I used half as much catalyst, and that one didn't really set up at all. Finally, I mixed the catalyst by shaking it, and that seems to have fixed the problem. Everything is working properly again at the proper ratios. So the lesson, unless you're buying fresh resin every time, is make sure you mix it. Next day, next couple layers of glass mat, and this is where the non-catalyzing reaction really catches me out. Day 3 starts with cleaning up some of the edges, getting the wood reinforcements out, and then adding some additional layers of mat to reinforce the soft areas. Day 4, more cleanup work, including getting the last of the reinforcements out and trying to get the edges clean. Since I didn't use duct tape on the molds, I had to use a sanding wheel to go ahead and get the last of the cardboard that had bonded to the epoxy off. Not a big deal, it's just more work. I finally accepted that the bottom fiberglass work was all voided out and crap, so I'd have to cut it out and replace it. No amount of reinforcing it from the back side was ever going to salvage it. So 1/60 grit sanding flap wheel and 1 angle grinder, and all of the fiberglass work is removed. And the same exercise of putting a wood spacer in and cutting cardboard, and this time remembering to coat it with duct tape, and putting it in place and laying fiberglass. Next day, popping the mold, and things are looking better. Just a little bit of cleanup work needed, and then I can get body fill. So in my limited experience, I've decided Bondo sucks. I mean, it does the job, but there's better compounds available. So anybody who's done this before already knows this, but for those of you who haven't, fiberglass takes a while. Doing the body fill takes forever. Depending on just how anal retentive you are, you can spend weeks trying to get everything smooth and lined up. I'll be honest, the top part of this extension is kind of like the armpit of the 818. You barely ever see it. So I spent a good number of days on it regardless, but I never got it perfectly smooth. I got the contours good enough that once I painted it, it just kind of faded away. And that's what I'm showing right here. You know, I wasn't going to record every session, but it was 2-3 times a day. Come out, put down body filler, sand it till it was getting smooth, find the next problems, put down more body filler, sand it till it was smooth. Finally, I was getting almost smooth enough that I couldn't find the problems, and then you drop some primer on it and find a whole new bunch of problems to fix. Eventually you run out of patience and you get to the point where you're like, screw it, paint's time. And there you go, then you're done. The last things to do were to build some ducting out of Kydex and attach the mesh screen and slap the panel back on, and happy it was done enough. once I put it back on the car, it actually looked pretty good. Yeah, I have to respray the plastic dip to clean up the overspray, but if you look at it, it's pretty smooth looking even with just spray paint. And thank God for that, because I still have to do the passenger side.